Hey YouTube, we are back again this week for another video portion of the Daly Dose Sports Podcast. Hopefully you're enjoying these every single week, and I hope everyone out there is doing well. You're all staying healthy. Hey, this week on the Daly Dose YouTube video, got a little sports news for you that we need to discuss. The NBA is getting ready to start back up, and the NFL is looking for some plans to restart as well. Plus, we've got a little bit of college football news. We'll throw that in as well. So let's go ahead and jump in right now. You know, as the NFL plans for how to play through the whole pandemic situation, the league actually distributed new game day protocols to teams last week, which included a prohibition on any players exchanging jerseys after games, as well as a ban on any post-game interaction of any kind that takes place within 6 feet of each other. Now, I've told you before that sometimes we have old guys in boardrooms, like they're having this meeting, and they come up with these ideas that probably in this boardroom full of old people that are completely separate from, reality, they probably got a few bravos, maybe a couple of huzzahs. That's a great idea in the meeting. But the actual point that they brought up was really, really stupid in real life. So here is what they said. You can't exchange jerseys after the game. You can't have, kind of that interaction after the game within 6 feet of each other. Let me see if I have this straight. It's okay to play a full collision sport, not a contact sport. I'm not talking about just contact. I'm talking about collision sport for 60 full minutes. You can hit your opponent. You can scratch them, you can punch them, you can tackle them, whatever. But after the game, you can't talk within 6 feet of each other or exchange jerseys, because that's when it's really going to get dangerous. That's where we draw the line. Hey, we're not going to have any sort of transmission of any sort of virus from that interaction after the game. We're going to make sure we stop it right there. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And you're already hearing NFL players pushing back on it. But it just makes no sense. It sounded great in the boardroom, I'm sure. It probably got a few, hey, great idea. But this is dumb. This is, like having a no holding hands policy for hookers on their way back from the motel. What difference does it make after all you've been through, after all you've done? I don't care if you hold hands now or not. The damage has already been done. Trust me on that. Meanwhile, NBA players are down in Orlando, and they are preparing for the restart of their season in just a few weeks. And NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has approved players to wear social justice messages on the back of their jerseys instead of putting their names on there. Now, so far, 285 of the expected 350 eligible NBA players had, in fact, picked a social justice message to put on their jerseys. Only 17 had opted to continue to just put their name on their jerseys, at least right now. The list of the suggested messages that were agreed on by the NBA Players Association and the NBA, and then made available to players per the source, are things like, Black Lives Matter, or vote, or I can't breathe, justice, peace, equality. There are a number of other messages that players can put on their jerseys. But we've already heard that one superstar will surprisingly be keeping his own name on his jersey. And that is Los Angeles Lakers star LeBron James. On a video call with NBA reporters last week, LeBron had this to say. Hey, I commend anyone that decides to put something on the back of their jersey. It's just something that didn't really seriously resonate with my mission, with my goal. I don't need something on the back of my jersey for people to understand my mission or know what I'm about and what I'm here to do. Hey, you don't have to put anything on the back of your jersey. And I'm totally okay with that. If you want to put something on there and the league's okay with it, I do worry a little bit when these leagues get too entangled into politics, because I think for the most part, people go to watch sports to get away from the politics. So be very, very careful. But if you want to put something on the back of your jersey that the NBA has approved, do whatever you want. And like I said, I was a little bit surprised that LeBron didn't do that. We know he's been out at the front of a lot of causes. I thought he'd put something on there. I thought, sure, he would probably put something like Free Hong Kong on the back of his jersey. But I guess not. Finally, let's get over to college football, where a day after the Big Ten announced it would play a conference-only schedule in all sports this fall, the Pac-12 has voted to do the same. Late last week, during a virtual meeting with athletic directors, university presidents, and conference officials. One of the reasons the Pac-12 has said that they decided to push back the start of their football season was a concern that UCLA and USC would not be ready to play in early September because of all the pandemic cases taking place in the Los Angeles area. Now, another reason the Pac-12 is also following the example of the Big Ten is because the Pac-12 is probably getting pretty sick of losing games to the Mountain West in their non-conference schedule every year. So, this helps out there too. Sick and tired of getting beat by a lower level league? Just cancel all those games. That'll work out much, much better. Now, they are saying that the ACC and the Big 12 are trying to wait until July to make a decision. And I think these schools have a unique advantage. Let's watch Major League Baseball. Let's watch the NBA. Let's watch some of these other sports and see what they do and see maybe where they struggle. Maybe then we can find a better course of action for how we're going to attack this whole thing. So some of these leagues are saying, we're just going to go with our conference schedule. We're going to eliminate those non-conference games. Meanwhile, you've got a school like Notre Dame going, so what's all this conference stuff that everyone keeps talking about? Losing the Big Ten and the Pac-12, that's going to cost Notre Dame a little bit. You're going to lose games like Wisconsin and Stanford and USC. Oh, but if the ACC goes conference only, Notre Dame will literally be out of opponents. They won't have any games. They won't have to play anyone. They'll have a schedule like Clemson in the ACC. They'll be playing a schedule like the New England Patriots for years in the AFC East, or like LeBron James in the Eastern Conference of the NBA. What I'm saying is Notre Dame won't have to play anyone. It's going to be very, very interesting to keep an eye on exactly what happens as college football is trying to come up with a plan. Okay, YouTube, be sure that you go over and you check out the rest of the podcast. I will leave a link down in the comments here on YouTube. This week on the show, we are actually going to be finishing up our discussion with a friend of the show where we were looking back at some sports history and thinking about what could have been different with a few changes. We are looking at some huge what-ifs in the world of sports. So make sure that you go check that out. Like I said, I will leave a link for it here in the comments. Hey, be sure to like and subscribe to The Dose on YouTube. We would appreciate that so much. Hope you're all doing well. I'm hoping that we are going to have some real live sports coming along very, very soon. Hope you're all doing well. I'll see you all next week.